All right, we're back and it's part two. Where we left off was I did my initial inspection of the engine, and I found out that there was some top end issues with the valve train, and pulled the jug and found out the piston was bad as well. So what I'm going to do right now is we're going to start. I got parts on order. They should be here in a day or two, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start by taking the rockers out of the valve cover. I'm going to start by doing that. We're going to pull the pins and pull the pivots out, or I should say the lock pins, and then pull the pivot pins out, and then we're going to pull out the rockers and inspect them. So let me set you up in a stand and have at it. I got the pins out. I used a vise. So what I did was I clamped them in the vise sideways like this, and then I tapped it with a rubber hammer until they came out. They came out pretty easy, not that big a deal. All right, so now I got to get the pins out. So I get this thing flat, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take snap ring pliers. I'm going to push them in the hole here. If you guys can, let me do this so you can see it. I'm going to push them in the hole and force the pin out. Now hopefully I can get a grip on it with this. There we go, that's one. See if I can get it with the pick. Come on, more. There we go. All right, let's check out the pins. Clean them off. This motor got pretty hot. I just want to make sure that the pins are still good. And they're pretty smooth. You can see that they got pretty burnt. So I don't know what happened on this top end, but it got pretty burnt. And these O-rings right here need to be replaced, which should come in that top end gasket set. And they look pretty good. We can reuse those. Those are not bad. All right, the cover itself looks good. I mean, there's a little bit of wear in there, but good usable part. We'll clean that up. We'll reuse that. Let's get a look at these. These are pretty bad. They have caked up oil on them. These things were roasting hot. I'm not sure if there was an oil feed problem, maybe. I don't know. That I don't know. But you can see how worn those are. Those are not supposed to look like that. They're supposed to be round like this. And when I get the new ones in, I'll show you exactly what these are supposed to look like. I mean, that one's really bad. That one actually broke. So those are out. Those are getting replaced. They're on order. This will get cleaned up. The valves are going to come out. Let me show you. So what I did was overnight I filled the top of the valves from the inside ports. I filled them up with WD-40, and a day later I came down and the WD-40 pools are still on top of the valves, so the valve seats are good. They're not burnt up. That's good. So I'm going to replace this valve, which is on order. We're going to do that next. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull all 4 valves, and the gasket kit that I bought has new valve seals, so I'm going to replace all the valve seals too. But that's next. Let me get you guys set up for that. Got the piston and cylinder in the mill. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to clean up all this gasket. I'm going to prep the surface, and we're going to install the piston and cylinder and throw a hone down it too. So I'm going to clean this up. I'm going to do it off camera, and I'll come back when I'm done. Gasket surface is nice and clean, as you can see, and you can see all the scrapings. They're all over the place. So I know I did it off camera, but you want to make sure that, honestly, scraping gaskets is the worst part of rebuilding an engine by far, and it's the most important. So you make sure you take your time doing this. What I did was I used a combination of razor blades, and I scraped it all off. You get very, very careful not to score the aluminum case. And when I did it, I had all these areas, all these open areas stuffed full of, even this here, this oil hole here, I had them stuffed full of paper towels, so nothing would get down inside the engine. Once I got everything scraped, what I did was I used a, let me show you. I used an oil stone, and I smoothed out the surface with a little bit of WD-40 on the stone, and got everything nice and smooth. So now it's a beautiful mating surface for that cylinder. Next, we got to go over and take a look at the new cylinder. All right, so we're at the cylinder, and this is how I got it. Obviously the gasket's stuck on this side, so I need to take this gasket off, clean this area as well, and then prep this groove for the O-ring that goes in there. Basically, I use tweezers to get in the tight areas to pull the gasket off. I use this because it saves your fingers, and I use this. It's tedious, time-consuming work, but it has to be done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to prep this surface now. I'll just show you real quick what I'm doing here. I just take this. I bought this at a I think it was an estate sale or something. It was in a box of junk in the garage, and they wanted like 50 cents for it. And I've been using this thing like you dream about. So this is basically it. Just scrape it off. It takes time. It's not a quick process, but it's got to be done. And that's pretty much it. So I'm going to scrape it all off without scoring up the aluminum. Then I'm going to hit it with the stone, and I'll turn you back on when I'm done. Okay, the gasket's all scraped off. You can see all the remnants right here. It's pretty clean. Now we're gonna polish it. There's high spots like right here. It looks like the timing chain might have bumped this a little bit. Might have been loose, I don't know. But there's a bit of a burr right here. All this stuff needs to be taken off just so we get a clean surface. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the stone, and I'm just gonna put a little bit of WD on it. It's okay, doesn't really matter. And I'm just gonna move this over it, just like this. Now I'm making sure that I'm keeping this in flat contact. I'm trying to make sure if there's an opening, that I have this supported over 2 ends. And that'll guarantee that I have this flat against the aluminum, the seating face here. Again, this is another very important part most people overlook. I have this step in other videos as well. If you want to see it, just go through my library. I think the EX400, when I rebuilt that, I have this process in that video as well. This is going to make sure we don't have any leaks, no air leaks. So we get solid compression in the chamber. We don't have any blow-by going into the crankcase. And all that stuff. Let's clean the stone off, get all the crud off of it. that's pretty much it. And we wipe it down. And we have a nice flat mating surface. Nice flat mating surface, free of any scratches or any raised areas that are gonna get in the way of the gasket seating the cylinder properly. So that's how it's done. Now, what I want to show you on this before we got to do the same thing to the top. There's a little bit of gasket on here. Same deal. I'm going to take this. I'm just going to scrape it off. Gets it off pretty easy. Same situation there. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hone the cylinder out. See what we got. This is the old cylinder. I don't know if you can see the scores right there. Pretty bad. And down in here you can see the corrosion. So what I'm thinking, if this bike might have sat and then the rings were frozen to the cylinder, and then somebody started it up and started driving it or whatever, and then they ended up having issues. I don't know, but that cylinder's still usable. It just it really needs a bore, and I don't really want to get involved with the machine shop and all that right now, so I ordered this and it'll be perfectly fine. So let's run a hone through this, shall we? And here's my hone. It's a standard hone. I bought this thing cheap on Amazon, I think. I'm just gonna lubricate the bore with some WD-40. And all I'm looking to do here is just put some cross hatching on here to allow the rings to seat. I'm not gonna try to not removing any damage because there isn't any. Put this down a little bit. And I am just gonna use a low RPM and go in and out. Cross hatching looks good. That'll help the ring seat. I'm happy with that. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna scrape the top of this, I'm gonna stone it and set you up at the bike, and we're going to install the piston and the cylinder. So 45 degrees away from that, and then this one here, I wanna have all the way over here, away from that oil ring. Have those on opposite sides. And I think that should do us. All right, let's pop it on. And the IN on the top of the piston stands for intake. That's going to install the clip. I already pre-installed this side. It just makes it easier. Now let's get the gasket. Gasket can only go on one way. I'm gonna oil up that piston a little bit. Some oil on those rings so she's not starting up dry. Alright, as I was blowing off, I realized that I forgot to remove the gasket from here and cleaned it up, and I used the stone on that as well. Nice and clean. Alright, I'm going to oil the cylinder. I'm going to slide it on. Alright, everything looks good. Cylinder's in. Everything looks good. I got those 2 screws just snug to hold the cylinder in place. So all we gotta do now is I gotta wait for some valves to come in. Let me show you what I got here. So I took them out and I kept them in the order in which they came out because some of these are going back in. This one I had to cut the tip off because it was just too mushroomed. I had to use a Dremel with a cutoff wheel. I had to cut the tip off to get that out. There was just no other way to get it out of there. This one here looks okay. I don't see any problems with that. We can reuse that. This one here looks pretty good. I think we can reuse that. No issues. But this one here, I had a little trouble getting this one out. And you can see it's pretty chewed up where the keeper goes. So I need to get a new one of these. I got it on order. So I'm waiting for one exhaust valve and one intake valve to come. And the keepers are really bad. They're really beat up, really worn out. So I ordered all new keepers. So I'm waiting for those to come in. So I'm gonna stop now, and when I get more parts in, we'll continue. I got all the remaining parts in today. So let's go over what we got. I already showed you guys the exhaust studs. I already had those, didn't have to buy them. Here's the camshaft that I got in the mail. And the bearings seem pretty good. The lobes, they got wear on them, but they are much better than this. I mean, you guys can see how bad that's worn out. I mean, these lobes are toast. So we got that to throw in. We also got these guys today. And these are the rockers. Open these up. These don't look too bad. They got new adjusters on them. Let me give you guys a comparison on how bad these are worn out. Take a look at that. That is absolutely amazing how bad those are worn. That's that one. And then this one here, it's just as bad. This one might even be worse. I mean, look at that. Completely wiped out. And it got really hot too. So we got those to replace. What else we get? So in this bag here we have, I think this is an intake valve. Oh, that's the exhaust valve, the smaller one. That's the exhaust valve that we got. And here's another one. This is the intake valve. Take a look at it. It's the intake valve. And I'm going to have to lap these in. I'll show you guys the process on how to do that real quick. I'm going to lap them all in, but I'm not going to show you guys doing all of them. And I had to order these from Podzilla. These are the keepers. The ones that were in there were all worn out. They were stuck to the valves. I don't want one of these to pop off, so I ordered new ones. They're like I don't know, I think they were $2 a piece or something like that, $3 a piece. So I ordered 8 new ones. And that's what we have here. I also got a box of, I bought a 6-pack of oil filters for it. Apparently the 300 and the 400 both take the same filter. Let me clean up a little bit here and we'll get set up to assemble the valve cover with the rockers. Valve cover's all cleaned up. She's looking good. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna install the rockers. And first off, I'm gonna replace the O-rings because we got new ones in the top end kit. So let's get these guys off. All right, this one was the one that was that I had to cut to get out, and that is the exhaust valve, which is this guy right here. So we are going to do that one first. See how bad it is. Look, let's pop this guy in there. Doesn't feel too bad. I'm gonna use a regular Sharpie, and you want to mark this up because you want to see where it's making contact with the head. And the seats were good, because I put WD-40, pools of WD-40 in there, and they didn't, I left them overnight, and they didn't drain out. So I know the seats are good, but I just want to take a look here. And you always should lap in a brand new valve anyway, but I'm probably going to just do them all. I mean, I got them out, might as well. All right, let's see what that looks like. Oh, that's actually good contact. It's contacting the whole surface. It looks real good. All right, let me get the lapping compound and get set up to lap these out. It's the compound that I use. You can get it at any Napa AutoZone. All right. You don't need a lot. I'm just going to put it around the valve. You don't want to get this everywhere. This stuff is super abrasive, and you can ruin the engine if it gets inside of it. So after we do this, we got to clean it up real good. All right, let's pop it in. All right, what we want to do now is I like to use a little rubber hose, and I push it over the valve stem, and that's what I spin with. Some people, let me get you in view here. Some people, you know, they do sell the tool, suction cup tool, but these valves are so small, it doesn't usually work very well, and this works good. Once you hear the sound that's less abrasive, that means you're probably done. You've done enough to get a smooth mating surface. Now, let's just get a look at this. You can see that there, it's touching in the middle and not on the edges, which is right about what we want. Let's just take a look at this real quick, see how this looks. You can see that clean surface there. It looks like it's sandblasted, but it's pretty uniform all the way around. And you can see that it's the thickness of it. When you can compare it to the other ones, they're shiny. So you can see that that's been cut. And the thickness of that surface is the same thickness that's cut into the middle of that valve. So we're good to go. Head's all assembled. The valves are in. If you look at the bottom. These are the two new ones. These are the two old ones. You can see the new ones don't have that burnt look to them, but they'll be fine. I also installed the exhaust studs. I put Loctite on them. Those are good. Those aren't going anywhere. And I cleaned up the head surface here, so we're good to go. I guess we're ready to install this on the cylinder now. So let me get you set up in a stand, and we'll have at it. All right, I talked them down to 15 foot-pounds. They have to go to 29 foot-pounds. So they're at 15 now. I'm gonna crank the wrench up to 29. All right, we're taut. Camshafts in. I put Loctite on those screws. They're not going anywhere. Everything's nice and clean. Everything looks good. I'm going to oil everything up. I think what I'm going to do now is I think I'm gonna put the chain tensioner in, crank it around a few times just to make sure the timing chain's good. So I am going to do that off camera. I'll turn you back on when I'm done. All right, we're at top dead center. You can see the timer mark there, the timer mark there, and the timer mark straight up. And the cam lobes are facing down. So we're good. Now what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna lube the cam up. Put some oil on the lobes. Probably be good at that if I showed it to you, huh? On the Baron. Squirt it inside the Baron. That should be good. We'll put a little drop on top of each valve. So I decided to chain tensioner. I decided to make my own gasket out of a piece of cardboard rather than order one. I mean, that's all the gasket is anyways. There's no pressure behind this. It's just to keep the oil from leaking out. That'll be fine. I did some research and I found out that there is no valve cover gasket, so you got to use gasket maker. So I use gasket maker on it. Bring this over. And I have it sitting on there right now, snug. I'm just going to give that gasket maker a chance to set up, and then I'll torque it down. But in the meantime, I'm going to put the chain tensioner back in. So I'll do that now, come back when I'm done. Alright, the valve cover's torqued down. All the hoses are on. I got the oil feed line back on for the top of the motor. All those are on. The adjuster's back in, that's all set. Carb's on, which I already did earlier. So the only thing I have left to do now is I need to put the exhaust system back on and adjust the valves, and we can throw some fuel in this thing and see what we got. So I'm going to throw the exhaust on right now off camera. I'll come back and just I'll show you adjusting one of the valves, and I'll do the rest, and then we'll go from there. All right, so let's do the adjustment on these now. Honda calls for 4 thousandths on both the exhaust and the intake, and as you can see there, that's the 4 thousandth shim. So I am going to do this one furthest away so you guys can see it, and then I'll do the rest off camera. Feels like there's some drag on there, so we're good. I'm gonna do the rest and come back on when we're ready to start it. Valves are adjusted, everything's ready to go. I'm gonna pop this filter out real quick. I'm gonna drain the oil just to be safe. I definitely didn't like the way that looked. That was not cool. So we'll put the new filter in. Changed the oil. It was really dirty. I didn't see any water in it, but I'm glad I changed it without starting it. That way I wasn't pumping that dirty oil through all the clean new parts that I just put in it. So what I'm going to do right now is I got the battery hooked up. There's no plug in it. Plug's out. You can see there's no plug in it. I want to crank it over and see if I'm getting oil to the top of the motor through the oil feed and everything to make sure everything's okay before I try to start it. So I'm going to turn it on. We got a neutral safety light. Let's see if we get some oil feed in here. And that looks good to me. We're feeding. All right, so that means the oil filter is full. Let me check the oil level. If that looks good, I'll put you back on and we'll go for our first start. All right, put the end caps back, the inspection caps back on for the valves. Everything's in, everything's tight, everything's good. I figured we'll do a compression check real quick before we fire this thing up. So what I'm gonna do is, let me just place this down for a second. I gotta hold the throttle wide open. All right, there it is, 120 PSI. It's probably gonna go a little higher once the ring seat and we get some oil in the cylinder, but I'll take that all day long. All right, let me put you in the stand, throw some gas in the carb, and let's start this thing up. Let's fire it up. As you can see in the back there, I got a piece of cardboard here because I don't know if anything's gonna come shooting out of that pipe, and I don't want to get all over my wall, so that's why that's there. All right, I'm gonna put some of my favorite stuff in there, which is True Fuel. So I'm gonna try to fill the bowl right now. Hopefully it takes it. All right, let's give it half choke, see what happens. Full choke. Shut the choke off. Give it a little gas. Idling. Quiet. I don't really hear any noise in it. I don't think that carburetor is right. I think it might need adjustment. Right now the choke is on. Try shutting it off. Give it some gas. Yeah, I definitely don't think the carburetor is right. We're gonna have to dig into that. Yeah, I can't get it to run. Can't take any throttle at all. So, let me check the screws on the carb and I'll be back. I dug into the carb and you cannot adjust the air mixture on this thing without the special tool. Apparently this needle here takes a special tool. I don't have the tool, obviously. So I have this rebuild kit here left over from my EX400, and I saved all the carburetor parts that I took out, and this needle here looks exactly the same, and it's got a screw head on it, and an O-ring to keep the dirt out. So I'm gonna throw that in there right now. The reason why I did this is because I have no idea what the factory setting was. So I'm gonna go 2.5. So that is half, 1, half, 2.5. Hopefully that'll give us what we need. I'm gonna throw this thing back together and try to run this bike again. All right, I played with the carburetor for a little bit. Let me squirt a little bit more fluid down in here. All right, that should do. It's running good now. I think it needed to clean out a little bit. I think I needed to clean it a little bit. Run it, warm it up. Get the rings to seat. It was bogging down. See seems okay now. Running good now. Pretty happy with that. No low beam. Taillight work? Yep. I don't think this has brake lights. But it does work. That's cool. Oh no, there it is. That's low beam. High beam, low beam, on off. Oh, lights do work. Pretty cool. Alright, I'm happy with this. All the plastics are on. And it's starting to look good. It just needs to be cleaned. And I can go over a few of the things that I did. I painted the pegs. They were really rusty. I cleaned them up a little bit with a wire brush, painted them. The frame, I cleaned that up as well. As you can see, I got rid of all the rust. I hit that with some Scotch-Brite and then some silver paint. I painted the grab bar. That looks like it's in good shape now. What else did I do? Same thing on this side. The rear brake, I hit it with a wire wheel, got all the rust off it, and it looks good now. Got all the flaky paint off the engine with Scotch-Brite. Not Scotch-Brite, I'm sorry. Steel wool. I did the frame over here as well. Steel wool the frame. Hit it with silver paint. I did the swing arm. Looks good. The master cylinder for the rear brake, I also hit that with a wire wheel. That looks brand new again. To the back, rear caliper, hit it with a wire wheel, brought the aluminum back, looks good. I hit the axles with the wire wheel, all the nuts, the rear disc. Same on this side. I hit the sprocket with a wire wheel. So everything looks good and clean now. And it didn't take much. And there's the grab bar again. Didn't take much to spruce it up. Now, the only thing I have to do now is I just noticed that. So when I bought this bike, the plastics weren't on it. And these fenders are flapping in the wind. And I gotta tie them down. So this side here is a little easy to see on. There's supposed to be some type of a frame mount here to hold the fender in place. It screws in here and then it screws through here. Both sides are missing. So I'm gonna have to fabricate something up. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use these right here. These tubes. I had an old folding chair, an old folding like stool that broke. And these pieces were part of it, and I hung on to them. I don't know, figured I'd use them for something at some point, and now I'm going to use them. So these are what I'm going to use. I'm going to come up with a way to make it so that I can screw into this and then screw into that, and that will hold the fender in place. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to weld a nut on this end so I can put a screw through here and catch it on this, and then on this side here I think I'm just gonna flatten it in the vise and then drill a hole through it so that I can mount it right there. So that's what I'm gonna do now. Here's the two supports I just made. I put some black paint on them so they're drying. Put some holes in the ends. See there, that's the nut that I welded in there, and that's it. Once they dry, I'll put them on and we'll take a look at what they look like. Supports are on. If you can see it, that's one of them, and I shake the fender. It's pretty strong, and the other one is right there. Again, that'll keep them from flapping. Let's see here. mechanisms are nice and tight now. So that was a cheap, easy way to fix it. Of course, you need a welder, but you don't always have to buy stuff. You can always make it. All right, so I guess next up, I'm gonna put some air on the tires and see if I can't get a ride out of this thing. Bike's all done, all cleaned up. She looks good. I took her for a ride up the street. My wife took her for a ride. It goes awesome. I know you guys, other people give ride videos, but I'm not gonna put my helmet on and my GoPro and all that. But we'll start it up. She sounds good. Fire's right up. Lights work. Everything works. Runs good. It's all cleaned up. And she's a beauty. So I was gonna sell this thing on Marketplace, and because it's all done, that's usually what I do. But I did a quick walk around video of it, and I sent it back, and I sent it to the guy I got it off. And he's like, wow, it came out great. And then he says, are you gonna sell it? And I said, why, do you want it? Would you like to get it back? And I haven't advertised it yet. And he said, yeah, it's very sentimental to my wife. And I remember, if you guys remember in my first video, I told you that it belonged to his wife's brother, who was killed in action in Afghanistan. And the bike sat forever, and that's why the cylinder was so bad and the piston was bad and all that stuff was bad, because it just sat and it got rust built up in it, and it needed a complete rebuild. So that's what I did. I got it running, and I just told him that I'll sell it to him for what I have into it for parts. I'm not gonna labor's on me. I feel really good about doing that. It's really hard, and when you have something that belonged to them and he probably loved riding this, it just makes me feel good that I could get it running again and bring it back to a really good looking bike that's functional and give it back to him. So that's what I'm gonna do. Give me your thumbs up, guys, if you like the video, if you like the content. Share, subscribe, all that good stuff. I got a few other projects going right now that I got to get started on. I'm actually going to pick up another project tomorrow after work, and I'll let that one be a surprise. I still have another project in my shed that I have to get to, so we still got a lot of stuff going on here. And if you guys want to see these videos, you want to watch me rebuild these bikes and four-wheelers and all that, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you get a notification when I post. Thanks for watching.